So we can dispense with this for the period of interpellation, and then we can just submit our amendments, our questions and our amendments to the staff, if that would be okay with the chairman, with the chair, the sponsor.
Yes, yes, that would be okay, Chairman.
So we're now on section 4. And to be clear, this is just for to spread it into the records. Section 4 scope and coverage states that the provision of this act shall apply to participants in internet transactions where either the online consumer or the online goods or digital service provider is situated in the Philippines, included but not limited to delivery carriers, digital platforms, e-retailers, online consumers, and online merchants. In other words, Tagalogin ko, kailangan isa dun sa mga parties ay are legally based in the Philippines. So with the example included, when it says, when it provides for a, it provides for a narration of inclusions not limited to delivery carriers. So in other words, a foreign buyer can the internet transaction that would be the internet transaction that is being referred to here that would be covered is pag may kunyari may foreign buyer tas may problema siya sa delivery carrier. Covered yon. So kunyari
Foreign buyer.
Kunyari may foreign buyer
In the
foreign buyer. O ito, kunyari may foreign buyer bumili sa Amazon US, tapos pinadeliver sa kanyang kamag-anak dito, tapos nagka-problema sa delivery. Would that be covered? Hindi, kaya ko
No, it would not be covered. It's since the transaction was by a foreigner and he sent it to his so it would fall under US law.
So I find that confusing now, Your Honor, because in the definition I just read, it said including but not limited to deliverer carriers. So in the example I gave, kung nagka-problema dun sa delivery carrier, even though the portal is foreign-based and the buyer is foreign-based, the delivery carrier is local.
Because from my understanding, they delivered it here. So parang the transaction was consummated abroad, but it was basically it was delivered here.
Correct,
So
Your Honor.
in effect, it's as if you sent a package, I guess, here. So it's
Parang to Your Honor, di ba, it's
So it
quite
would still
common.
fall under US. The transaction would still fall under US law, I believe, because parang nagpadala lang ng package dito.
Correct, something like that.
Yes. So in
But-
effect, that's the
Correct, but in the definition, it would make it appear that it's covered because it says including but not limited to delivery carriers. I'll read it. It says where either the online consumer, in this case hindi kasi nga nasa abroad siya, or the online goods or digital service provider situated in the Philippines, hindi nga kasi bumili siya abroad. Pero sabi including but not limited to delivery carriers. So
we can adjust the language to be more specific in that we're open to an amendment that would make
yeah.
it more specific.
So I think, Your Honor, we should ask DTI to run these scenarios similar to the scenario I gave because this will cause problems. Your Honor and this representation have the same understanding na hindi covered. Pero sinami yung so ano yung purpose na sa amin? Is that an error or is it covered in some other way?
Yes. Yes, Your Honor, we are open to an amendment that might clarify the language a little better. I see.
Yeah.
I can see where there might be some.
But actually, Your Honor, what the point I'm making is I'm also not capable of finding all these errors.
Yes.
I'm asking DTI to fix it. Kasi inimbento ko lang yung question ko na yun on the spot because I was like, okay, paano kaya tong delivery carrier? Hindi pa ako naka-invento ng question ng digital platform.
Yes, Your Honor, I will ask the DTI to
So maybe
run some more scenarios. And
if
based
they
on-
want to hear those scenarios, Your Honor, they can submit it to, in the interest of time, submit it to my team so I'll read it. What scenario would exclude an online consumer, an online goods or digital service provider, but include the digital platform, the e-retailer? Well, sinama na ulit si online consumer. Parang sinabi niyo na online consumer kanina. So I think this is a redundant, a repetitive line. It shouldn't be here anymore.
Yes, I will instruct the DTI to submit more scenarios that might.
And their last
Situation.
line, the last line is online merchant. Hindi pa ba yun the online goods provider? Hindi pa ba yan si merchant? Ano si who is the merchant if the merchant is not the online goods provider? Is that another being?
Online merchant service provider says inside the online goods and service provider.
The online merchant, based on here, it says basically it refers to the merchant who sells within the platform. Specifically, the definition here is online merchant refers to an organization or retailer selling non-financial goods or services to online consumers through e-marketplace or other third-party digital platforms. An e-retailer shall also be considered as an online merchant if it advertised, aside from its own website, the same goods/services through a third-party legal platform, and the online consumer purchased, leased, or obtained the service of their e-retailer through the said third-party digital platform. So basically, it would refer to those who are selling within the platform. Like if you're a seller within Lazada or Shopee, that would be what would be considered an online merchant.
And who is the online retailer?
It refers to a natural or juridical person selling goods or service through their own website directly to online consumers.
So an online merchant uses a platform.
Yes.
And an e-retailer has
Selling
their
goods
own site.
Website, yes.
So if you have both, then you're both. If you have
Yes.
both, then you are both. You
Yeah.
are both an e-retailer and an online merchant.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll move on, Your Honor. Maybe the whole provision can just be cleaned up. Because parang ligaw pa rin si delivery carriers.
Yes, we'll run some more scenarios, Your
Yes,
Honor.
thank you.
To address this.
And then for the record, it's very clear here that this action likewise apply to all business to business and business to consumer online transactions where one transacting party is situated in the Philippines. No, that's not the provision I was looking for. What were we saying that's not covered? Consumer to consumer, no? Yung parang carousel, right?
Yes.
So it should be business to business or business to consumer.
Yes.
Okay. So that means at least one of the parties is in the business
Business
of
to business
selling
or
something.
business to
Correct.
consumer.
Yes,
Okay.
that is correct.
So that means
And,
at least, if His Honor can refresh my memory, because I know I asked this question, but I can't recall the answer. So what do you consider regularity? Like if somebody is regularly disposing of their clothes, which is consistent with consistent with my view on sustainability, they dispose their used clothes on carousel, no? So they're selling it secondhand. Do they at some point become a regular merchant?
I think in that case, that the purpose that would be just to a personal unloading of personal effects. When we talk about, I think something of repetitive transactions of more regular that have more regularity, and that would be defined as more of the way I think the example you showed earlier is more of an isolated this, whereas a transaction with regularity would indicate a more business orientation to the seller.
Okay, I think, Your Honor, that requires more deliberative examination because in the sustainable movement, it is encouraged that you don't throw away old things. You resell it, you give it away, you resell it, you repurpose it. So they might be doing it with regularity. So that's why I said you have to define what that is. Is it by an amount, by the number of times? At the rate people shop nowadays, which is really a sustainability issue, I'm happy that they will have it repurposed and reused. But if it does become a regular thing, then do they fall? I just want these things clarified.
Yeah,
I don't have any strong opinions,
Yes.
but I just want them clarified so that people know where to go. And of course, alam nyo na yung magiging question pang ano dyan, mga, in good condition daw. Tapos nung nakita ko, sira-sira. Kaya sa magko-complain, tapos sasabihin, hindi ka covered dyan.
Yeah.
Dahil hindi naman regular ang pagbenta niya sa carousel. Hindi, regular na yan. Buwan-buwan may binibenta siya. So, it should be decided now.
Yes, I think I think quantitatively we can, we were planning to leave that to the implementing rules and regulations to give a more, I guess, specific assessment of what exactly would constitute recurring transactions, the kind of recurring transactions, what would define a C2C. But there is a specific this definition of C2C transactions, which is isolated transactions of an individual or group of individuals with another individual or group of individuals done for personal, family, or household purposes and not done in the ordinary course of business of any of the parties to the transactions. I guess, like you said, that's a broad, it's a little broader, but if we want to get into the intention was to allow the IRR to get into the specific details of perhaps number of transactions or what exactly would constitute a C2C transaction.
Um,
And I think we have to be also, sorry, Your Honor, but I think we also have to be fluid about some of these definitions, because if we put in the law, it might limit the ability of the DTI later on to adjust as the marketplace changes. As we know, this is a very fluid.
Understand.
it's
Yeah,
very-
that is a good point, Your Honor. But like, okay, so let me pose a question along that line. That person who's disposing of her family's, not, let's just say not her own, even her family. So minsan dress niya, then another time jacket ng tatay niya, another time bag ng nanay niya. And then after a while, sasabihin nila na magrereklamo, puro low quality yan. Hindi totoo yung quality na sinasabi niya dun sa ano niya. So kung hindi yan, if you consider that kasi personal, you don't consider it that regular, saan sila magrereklamo?
Yes.
Parang
For
scam,
I
scam
think
rin.
if in the event that it's in the event that it's clothes from your family or something, that I think that would fall under more consumer to consumer transaction. But when we talk about regularity, perhaps if it's something you purchase from someone else for the purpose of reselling it, that would be something that would fall under the Consumer Act. Right? If it was purchased. If you purchase it from someone else, we get that. Consumer Act. So yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, I hope his honor understands. I'm just asking these questions for clarity when the law is passed, and these questions will come by the.
Yes, like I mentioned, I think when it comes to a consumer to consumer transaction, it's really, if you look at the intent of the person, it was more as you're selling. In this case, it's the selling of your family's clothes.
Yeah.
I think your intent is not really. There's no regularity in that. But whereas perhaps if it's something that you bought from someone else, perhaps, and you wanted to resell it to somewhere else, then it becomes something that would fall under the Consumer Act.
Okay. And then, do I understand correctly? I'm going to skip now to Chapter 2, Section 8, the creation of the E-commerce Bureau. The E-commerce Bureau, Section 8, letter E, will receive business and consumer complaints, no? So the complaints that we're discussing would go to this bureau, correct?
Yes, that is correct, Your Honor.
Okay, so for example, can His Honor help me out here? If somebody bought an airline ticket online and then somebody else bought it through a travel agent and they encountered exactly the same problem, one complaint would go to the e-commerce bureau and another complaint would go to another bureau in DTI. Would that be correct?
Well, the e-commerce bureau would be the one to refer to the proper. I mean, it would probably end up in the same. Of course, it would end up with the company that where it originated from. In the case of a plane ticket, it would end up with the airline company. So even the e-commerce bureau would have to coordinate, and whichever bureau, even if of course the DTI would still assist them and would refer them to the entity, the original entity that sold the ticket, which is the airline.
Actually, His Honor's reply leads me to what was my other question. Letter E, the one I cited, receive business and consumer complaints on internet transactions. Okay, so i-receive niya yun. And facilitate the speedy resolution thereof by the appropriate government agency which has jurisdiction. So in other words, babato niya din dun sa agency. They're not going to process this. They're just a coordinator. Is that the role of, do I understand the role of the e-commerce bureau correctly? They're just a coordinator?
Yes, they are a coordinator. Yes, and again, I think the DTI has a no wrong door policy. So even if they reported the same transaction to two separate entities, but even if they reported to a different department of the DTI, it would still be they would still service the request and refer it to the proper department or entity or whoever business was the one who sold the product.
So in the example I gave, Your Honor, may I know from DTI who receives complaint? What agency deals with complaints of airlines? Airline tickets.
Right now, it's the Consumer Protection Group.
Okay, so yun nga, so mare-refer doon. So because that, I actually think that's more efficient because both would be referred. It's the same problem most likely. And I'll give an actual case. When I flew the other week, I was seated, well, near me was a foreigner, and he was saying that the PAL business class ticket was a scam. Kasi yung binenta nilang seat, wala man lang entertainment ano tawag doon, entertainment unit, 'di ba normally meron nang nakadikit
Yes.
doon. Walang screen, tapos hindi rin sinabihan ahead of time. Mag-take off na yung plane, saka lang sinabi na hindi ba kayo sinabihan na wala kayong entertainment? So talagang narinig ko talaga yung katabi ko, sabi niya, this is a scam. Kasi hindi, so pag gano'n, saan yan marireport? Sa pag binili niya yung ticket online, idadaan sa e-commerce. But I guess it doesn't matter, right?
Actually, they would really be free to choose. I mean, if they have the number of either one of them, or if they only have the number of one of them, they're both entities, whether there's a customer one of them, or if they only have the number of one of them, the e-commerce bureau, either one of them would service the request of the passenger and refer them to the proper entity.
Yeah, but just to be clear, they're not going to handle it. They're just going to refer it to the proper entity.
Yes, they would of course they would address the request and they would refer it to the
But might be confusing when His Honor says address the request, because the request is to solve the issue, to go
Yes.
after the airing party. So just refer. I think that's
Yeah,
a
refer.
more accurate response, just to refer. Para lang walang confusion.
Okay.
That's the job, to refer.
Yes.
Because if that's the case, I may even recommend stronger language here that says that the e-commerce bureau does not handle it. Para clear. Kasi ang tagal ko inisip to, so ano ba, mag-handle ba sila o hindi?
Okay.
Might even be better to be clearer. Okay. Anyway, I'll quickly go back to Section 4. There's a reference in letter D to Republic Act 7653, but I checked because I don't know what this is. Republic Act 7653 has been amended by Republic Act 11 11211. So may I just, I don't need a response, but can I just ask DTI to clarify that, Your Honor?
Would you like a report or a more specific?
It's just that, Your Honor, it says here, the following shall be excluded from the coverage, Republic Act number 7653. But it has been further amended by another act. So I'm just saying that it might be a better reference, the latest law.
Okay.
So kindly have DTI take a look at that so that we're making reference to the accurate law.
Yes, yes. Yeah, I think they were referring to the definition of like financial products and services as defined under the Republic Act. So they can give the specific reference in that act so that we can be more guided in terms of the definition and the references.
Okay, but what I'm saying is that law has been amended. So
Yes.
the proper reference would probably be the latest law. I don't need any specific provision.
Okay. Yes, that is noted, Your Honor. Thank you.
You might want to say as amended anyway.
Yes, yes, duly noted, Your Honor.
Okay, I'll move on to the next item, letter E, section 4E. The regulation of the content of online media without prejudice to appropriate actions authorized under this act for purpose of preventing the infringement of intellectual property rights under the Intellectual Property Code. So, itong the regulation of content of online media is one of those that are excluded. So my question is, as to the content of this online media, then who is now going to handle claims of claims on what malicious content? If it's malicious content, what, you go to court, that's libel. Wrongful acknowledgement of the owner of the content, copyright violation, you go to the Intellectual Property Office. Let's be clear so we know where they go.
If it is malicious content, that would already fall under the cybercrime law. But
Cybercrime.
if it's something of the nature of intellectual property, that would be the IPO office.
Okay.
Intellectual property
And-
office.
Yeah, okay. How does His Honor, I think I'll take this up later on OBR, Online Business Registry. It comes up again later. Okay, can His Honor just elaborate for everyone's understanding, Section 7, equal treatment of online and offline commercial activities? It basically states that unless otherwise specified, this act shall be construed to ensure that those who engage in e-commerce may not enjoy any benefits that are more favorable nor be placed at a disadvantage in relation to other enterprises that offer goods and services offline. I understand what it means, but maybe His Honor can just for the record, because somehow people feel, I don't know, it's a good statement to be there, Your Honor. I agree with it, no? But, and the reason, let's just spread into the record, what is the reason for that?
It goes to the equality between retailers. I think this is a topic that we've heard from our offline retailers often, that the online have advantages, are given undue advantages. So the purpose, that's why we wanted to specify this in Section 7, that
That's not the intention.
the act should be construed to ensure that those who engage may not enjoy any benefit that is more favorable, nor be placed in a disadvantage. So it just goes to, it speaks of the equality between the e-retailers and our efforts to make sure that there's a level playing field between online retailers and offline retailers.
Yes, and that's a good point, Your Honor. I do support that, because for a few years back, I was even hearing statements coming from, I suppose, online retailers and their supporters that they really want favorable treatment, like they didn't want to be taxed. Does His Honor recall that? I had a question, Your Honor.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were making a
No,
statement,
I
sorry.
said, does His Honor recall that, there were expressions of sentiments of online retailers and their supporters that they did want favorable treatment, like they didn't want to be taxed? A few
Yes,
years ago, yeah.
yes, I've heard those,
Yes.
I have heard of that, those, concerns being brought up, yes, I
Yeah.
have.
So now we're making it clear, no, pantay lang naman kayo, di ba? Pare-pareho naman nagnenegosyo, pare-pareho naman may mga kailangan bayaran na bills, but everybody has to pay tax. That's what we're.
Well, I think this bill doesn't have any tax implications on it, but I think in terms of the motivation of the bill, I think is clearly to create a level playing field between offline retailers and online retailers.
So how about,
But there's no, I mean, it doesn't refer to any tax components at this time.
but how about the registration? Does this bill refer to registration requirements, like getting the
Yes,
permit?
there's an online business registration, but it only requires them to divulge their name, basic information, which will be given to the DTI, and of course will be available to their online retailer or platform.
So is this the OBR?
Yes, the online business registration.
But the OBR is totally separate from any requirements with the LGU and with national government. Is that correct?
This is in coordination with this will be managed by the DTI department. By DTI.
Yes, but my question is this totally separate and therefore totally separate from the other requirements to start a business? In other words, if you were a sole proprietor, you go to DTI. If you're a corporation, you go to SEC. Then you need your business permit from the LGU. So
Well,
is this a one-stop shop na wala na yon?
this is meant to be this is simply a requirement for online. It's not meant to be in lieu of any other requirements that may be required of any other business.
So it's an additional requirement. That's what it is.
Basically, yes. Yes.
Okay. So to be clear, because I'm not sure and I would be happy to be educated. Is there a provision here that says that? Because if not, I would recommend that there is. That this is not registration in the OBR is not it's not in lieu of exactly what the sponsor said.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't say specifically in lieu of, but we can add that provision there.
Thank you, Your Honor. I think offhand, I think it may be necessary. I'm happy to hear what DTI has to say, but I think it won't hurt to make that clear because some people, you know, if when DTI starts promoting this law and they'll say, don't forget to register, some may be of the view that, dun lang pala ako magre-register. Kasi
Yeah, I think you can make that clear. Of course, this is in addition to, I mean, this is a requirement that currently is not required of all online sellers. They're not required to divulge. There's no online business registry, so it would be a useful tool for the DTI as an additional requirement, and also for the sake of enforcing the responsibilities of the seller. So, but we can also include some provision that would promote this idea to make sure that the people will not think that this is the only requirement, and this is something that is in addition to the existing requirements of their business.
How about, Your Honor? I'm told I actually don't really engage in TikTok, but I'm told that TikTok now has a matawag doon, as an option where if there's an influencer promoting a certain product, immediately it's clickable. Go here and shop here. So in that case, would the influencer now be considered a merchant? Technically, that the merchant is not the seller. I would say they are the endorser.
Well, if there's a click feature, they would be considered an online merchant.
They're
If
not
there's
clicking it,
a, if there's a,
Sorry, Your Honor.
yeah, sorry.
The one I know is it's clickable to the store for influencers. Of course, if the influencer has their own business, then that might be. But in many cases, the influencers are featuring a product and the clickable is an online merchant or an e-retailer. So my question is related to section 8B. Would the online merchant need to register? Because it says here, anyone else who engages in internet transactions. Is that person engaged in internet transactions by endorsing, by promoting?
Online, it is covered. If it's done online, it's still covered.
So an endorser has to now register
Yes,
with the Bureau?
yeah, online.
Are we sure about that?
If the influencer is pushing it to the Philippine market, he would have to register
As what?
in the OBR as a merchant.
Hindi siya merchant, ah. Wala siyang sinesell na products.
Are you saying he's just
Endorser.
promoting it but no click? But if it's a click, if there's something there that's a clickable and brings him to the site, you know,
Pero not necessarily may kita siya doon. Sometimes may points, sometimes may fixed fee, sometimes, I don't know. Hindi pa ako nakuwang influencer for that.
yeah. Well, I mean, we can define it differently, but as of now, the DTI would still define that as he's still selling a product or he's still promoting a product, and there's some. So he would have to register himself if he's going to be promoting something. I mean, what if it's something that's injurious? He would have to still. It would be beneficial to get his information.
Di ba, pag injurious yung binibenta niya.
The view of this representation, Your Honor, is that you might have to capture the influencer in some way because there are influencers that are really peddling wrong information, injurious information, which
Or I mean, a product, injurious product. It has to be. I mean,
Well, no.
if you're saying information, yeah.
Information
Yeah.
that is related to a product that if used in the manner the influencer is explaining could cause injuries. For example, I gave the example, Your Honor, in my first interpellation. There's now vape products that have collagen. So if there was an influencer, which is actually not allowed by law already, if there was an influencer pushing that, then that influencer should be held accountable. Is that the purpose of this law? Is it covered here? Because under the definition of online merchant, I don't think that influencer is covered because the definition of online merchant in this bill is selling a product.
Yes.
And selling the product might be different from just promoting a product. So it's something I am bringing to His Honor's attention so that the proper language can be provided if in fact there is that desire to capture influencers. And if so, is it all kinds of influencers or only if it's applicable? I don't know, Your Honor. I don't know the answers. I am just posing these questions because they are real situations.
Yes. What they call that an advertisement model, which is end users access the service for free since the platform is sustained by advertising revenues. So that's a advertising model for revenue, and it's a business model, and that's why the inclusion of advertising as distinguished from advertisements is included since its nature its nature is business on a digital platform. So. And if you look at digital platforms, they refer to information and communication technology-enabled mechanisms that connect and integrate producers and users in online environments where goods and services are requested, developed, and sold, and data generated and exchanged, such as but not limited to e-marketplace, delivery service platforms, educational platforms, food delivery platforms, and healthcare platforms. So I guess it's a model of revenue, it's a model of conducting business on the internet, and therefore it is
So Your Honor
there's
is
some
saying-
requirements and it falls under the law.
So Your Honor is saying that, His Honor is saying that, by promoting a product, that is a form of advertisement, and as such, that is, as such, he is an online merchant. I follow so far, but in what way was it captured in definition? I'm just trying to make it, be sure that,
Yeah, I guess when you promote us, it's a digital service that you're providing. So it's a business model. There's a revenue model for it. So it would fall under the law since it refers to be a business model. There is a end consumer and is a business to consumer model.
well, maybe the DTI can just tell us, so where did you capture that then here? Where? I understand what's being said, but I don't know where it's captured.
Here in Section 497.
Section 4. The first thing.
Here in Section 4, Line 7, the provisions of this act shall apply to participants in internet transactions where either online consumer or the online goods or digital service provider is situated in the Philippines, included but not limited to delivery carriers, digital platforms, e-retailers, online consumers, and online merchants.
So saan nga dyan, Your Honor?
Well, being a digital service, they consider someone who is engaging in online, someone who's promoting someone who's promoting a product is a digital service provider. Since you're advertising a product, you're earning as a digital service provider. So that's what's included in the scope and coverage in Section 4.
That allows the online player to take Well, if you take a look at letter K, which is Section 3, letter K, which defines digital service, it refers to a non-financial service that allows the online consumer to create, process, store, or access data in electronic form, or allow the sharing of any other interaction with data in electronic form uploaded or created by the online consumer or other users of that service. I don't think that's what that's what an endorser does.
Well, I think it's access to data, since the data is the information on the product, correct? Your Honor.
So access to data.
Yes.
Does DTI stand by that? I'm going to take another look at this and
Yes, if you would, I can ask.
I
the
just
DTI
want it to be accurate. I mean, I'm not an
Yes.
expert. I'm just trying to understand it. So
Yes, as far as Your Honor, these representations, that's how I interpret it. But certainly we can ask the DTI, and if there are some amendments, we can certainly propose it, and we can ask for the DTI's opinion.
I don't have any amendments. I'm not the expert. I consider that DTI is. I'm
Yes.
just posting questions.
We can bring up this concern with the DTI, and perhaps they can I can ask them to recommend something to clarify these concerns. But just in general, if there's a link that will redirect someone to a product, just like TikTok, it is covered. The data was given by the advertisers, influencers, so it will be covered as far as this law is concerned.
Okay, thank you. Next item, we're still on Section 8. Letter K refers to, I'll read it, no? Collaborate with financial regulators in protecting online consumers, such as but not limited to facilitating the speedy resolution of complaints of online consumers that involve the use of digital financial services. So ang role ba dito ng bureau is